stuff. Today, we are watching someone we haven't watched in a while. In fact, I don't know when the last video she put out is. We are watching, of course, you heard it already. We're going to watch some Blaire White. I guess we watched a little bit of the thing a month ago. So she's been doing some other stuff. She talked about Ethan Klein, blah, blah, blah. But she just did reacting to Dr. Phil's crazy trans debate with Matt Walsh. I'm sure she's going to have just the worst time with this. So we already watched part of the Matt Walsh Dr. Phil interaction without her commentary. Now it will be improved with Blaire's commentary. Let's fucking go, dude.
It's like, what is a woman?
Well,
can you tell me what a woman is?
No, I can't.
Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term. It includes people
That
who...
describes what?
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So the amount of people that have requested that I react to the clip we're going to be reacting, why is my drink in front of the lens? How many years have I been doing this? The amount of people, starting over, that have requested that I react to this episode of Dr. Phil is nuts. No pun. This episode of Dr. Phil features two trans activists,
Nuts,
Addison
no
and
pun.
Ethan, as well.
What was the joke? Wait, what's the joke? Nuts, no pun? Wait, what do you mean? What's the joke? That was a joke. Nuts, balls? Like testicles? Wait, Blaire has balls still. What the fuck? Wait, what? Wait. Blaire has balls. What the fuck? You can't... Wait, what? Okay, all right.
Well, as conservative commentator Matt Walsh, and just a heads up, this episode was a dumpster fire. It was absolutely crazy. It was very intense. It was very heated, and I can see why, just addressing the elephant in the room, I can see why Dr. Phil didn't air my episode that I filmed back in August. I did a whole video about this, link in the description to my second channel, of why he didn't air my episode, or at least my speculation, because the producers gave me kind of a vague bullshit excuse. But I see now, after watching this, and you'll see what I mean as well, you'll feel it, I see why they didn't, because they wanted the drama, the heat, the contention, the combativeness, and honestly,
They probably gave you not a bullshit answer. They probably said, "Wow, you were really boring to have on. We're not going to air this. It's dog shit. No content here."
I just wasn't serving that. But that's beside the point. It's not about me today.
I wasn't
I just wanted to
serving
address
that.
that while I had the brief chance. But before we jump into the ninth circle of hell, that
Oh, we're going to do an ad, aren't we? Yep, leaving. Skipping your ad. Skipping your ad.
floor, and they're able to speak their mind on the stage without any opposition. And then Matt Walsh comes in later, and that's when things get crazy. But let's start with what they have to say when they're by themselves.
This is a hot topic.
Yes.
The way Dr. Phil did that was like the beginning of that song. He was like, "Wait, listen.
When they're by themselves.
This is
The story of a girl." There you go. See? You get it. Speedy Yoshi, thanks for the 50 biddies. I watched Big Joel's video about the old debate between Blaire White and John Doyle. Blaire just refuses to have a conversation about why being trans is okay. She just wants to say other trans people are bad, but I'm good. Look at me. I'm good. Pick me, conservatives. Don't be mean to me. I mean, yeah, literally.
a hot topic.
Yes.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is it a good thing?
I guess because it creates dialogue and it invites conversation to learn about other people.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are really confused about gender identity in these times, and it's good for us to have these conversations so people open their minds and relearn and unlearn.
By the way, Addison, every time I see them on anything, like, how do you not just go, yeah, that person's good looking? You don't have to be like, I think the problem with transphobes is definitely, like, they have a really big issue of admitting someone looks good without feeling like that also has to follow some sort of sexual feeling. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel, due to the, you know, R.I.P. for me. I'm not attracted to beards, right? Right? It's not a thing for me. But it doesn't have to be for me because it's not about me. It's about what makes Addison or whoever wears a beard feel good. I wear beards. I have a beard. I am not attracted to me in that way. That's not what it has to be. I can also understand intellectually without feeling sexual things, and we don't have to, like, it doesn't always have to be about our dicks this is a good-looking person, irrespective of my sexual attraction to anybody, right? It doesn't have to be tied, and I think they get really uncomfortable when they, like, we talk about, like, oh, this person's good-looking. The disconnect between being an attractive person and sexual attraction, and they just, like, they can't get platonic attraction out of their head, like, into their brains at all. Like, Addison's a good-looking person. Whether you say handsome or pretty or whatever, I'm sure that they are fine with pretty much any sort of compliment in that regard. And I don't think it's, like, even, like, really highly debatable, right? Like, I don't think you have to, I don't know. Like, most people, you just tell, like, that's a good-looking person. That's fine. What does my wiener do, though? I mean, exactly. Here's the thing, like, and if your pee-pee do move, if you do find yourself being attracted, it's not because there's this, again, it's another really unfortunate phenomenon that happens with trans people in general, and you know, Addison's non-binary, but obviously there are aspects of, you know, femininity within the look, right? Aspects that make cis dudes uncomfortable for some reason. There is sort of like and I guess this came up with the I'm sorry to invoke his name, but the really bad Destiny trans panic thing that happened a while back. There's almost an implicit, or I guess explicit, it's almost like a charge against trans people, as if their existence is a trick. It's to trick you. It's like, oh, that person might be attractive, but it's I'm being bamboozled, as if whoever they are is somehow centered around your perception. Like, whenever it's like Schrodinger's fucking trans person, they're not malicious until you view them and find attraction, and then you get a weird boner and you're like, oh shit, am I gay? And then you have to be mad at that person for looking however they look. It's so weird, dude. I mean, this happens with cis women all the time as well, like, oh, she was asking for it type conversations. This isn't that different, and it's not really far removed, and I know that we're not really talking about that topic necessarily, but like, just the fact of Addison and people like them making others uncomfortable because of their visage, I guess, it really just comes down to that sort of transphobia in regards to, how does this reflect on my sexuality as a straight cis man? You know what I mean? Pretty weird. And women do it too. But Speedy Yoshi with 50 Viddies. Should I know try to say that sexuality and trans people aren't compatible? Huh. That sounds like a dum-dum.
To what we've been taught.
Right.
So this is always a disturbing talking point. It's a very common talking point from these activists.
What does your gender say about me? Exactly.
People need to unlearn things, right? They need to relearn, unlearn.
That's
like whenever
true.
these people
Yeah.
from their high horse talk about how, you know, the little
Blaire, you're fucking trans, dog. It's so weird. Every time she does this, people literally do need to unlearn, like, their stereotypes about gender and sex and stuff like that, because it's just incorrect. It isn't how reality is. Trans people do in fact exist. I didn't know this growing up. Did you know that? Isn't that interesting? How many of you knew trans people were a thing until either it affected you directly or you basically grew up and it sort of like happened throughout society? Like, did you grow up with a consciousness of trans people existing? I sure fucking didn't. Yes, I had to unlearn that like any sort of thing that I did learn about trans people was through the lens of like dog shit. Like, Ace Ventura is a great example of this. Ace Ventura, like, the first trans person I can recall seeing in any media anywhere was the villain, and was more villainous for, again, tricking the cis het dude. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have any fucking understanding of what trans people were at all. Jerry Springer, yeah, stuff like that, where it's all drama and it's about like, she was hiding a dick. Like, it's just stupid. And it's always like trans women too. It's never like trans people in general or non-binary people or any of the permutations that people can express themselves in. It's always trans women, and it's always people that end up looking like Blaire, right? I said Blaire right, but I also sort of said white there. I meant right. Whatever. Kind of funny. So I just don't know how Blaire doesn't like have an understanding of the, like, she lives in California, so I guess she's got it's more likely for her to experience acceptance, but holy shit, dude. Last Firstborn, thanks so much for the sub, dude. Appreciate the 15 months.
little plebeians need to unlearn things
They
and
do.
come around to
Yeah.
my ideology. It's just
It's not about
very
the
off-putting to
ideology.
me.
And Addison, many people think gender pronouns are exclusive to the LGBTQ plus community, but that's a misconception, true?
Yeah. Well, everybody has pronouns. Like, you may use he and him as your pronouns, right? I use they and them as my pronouns.
So Addison has a point here. And by the way, throughout this video, I mean, I'm sure you guys can guess which side I agree more with, just because.
Can we? I would love for you to say exactly who you side more with in general, personally.
If you know me, you know. But I'm going to be giving kudos where they're deserved from both parties. I'm going to be as objective as I can here.
Yeah, so it's Matt Walsh. Yeah, it's Matt Walsh.
Addison does have a point that many people who sort of go to battle with these trans activists and the extremely woke people tend to make the talking point that I don't even have pronouns. You know, I don't have pronouns. It's like everyone actually does have pronouns. And what doesn't occur to Addison's tribe is that most people find it highly obnoxious when you wear your pronouns on your sleeve like it's some sort of accomplishment or badge of honor.
Oh, God. Is that, like I don't think, like, I have my pronouns in my bio, but it's for two reasons. We talk about this a lot. It's not for a badge of honor or anything. Number one, the most important thing is solidarity with trans folks that are in my community and outside the community and just in general. Normalizing the practice makes it a lot easier for trans people to be out there and to not necessarily be specifically targeted by harassment, which is the second part. It takes the heat off of trans people for the most part. People see he, him in my bio, and I retweet something, and they just he, him, and mauled in my mentions after I've long muted the conversation. And most trans people are just left off the burner. Now, some of you enter it into yourself, and start having a discourse on Twitter with people in my mentions, but or other mentions, your own mentions or whatever. But like it does in fact help when they can't tell, right? Like transphobes, TERF stuff, they cannot tell. You know what I mean? They can't clock you. I mean, like 100% of the time, like they're usually wrong about that shit. It's just like yeah, I'll help mitigate sort of the thing. That way they can't just swing and miss constantly because like no, I'm cis, and then they have that and like honestly, it's been going down over time as pronouns become more normalized. The people that bitch about them, they still exist, of course. It happened to Dave, but definitely it goes down over time. The frequency, I guess. Hey, I got a gross question. I might answer you.
Or when you write it on your face. It also gets tiring
Hollywood
being
Cody.
forced to accept the invention of
Gucci Giuliani. Thanks,
new
Paul.
pronouns on a weekly basis, especially when they're pronouns that are insane, like the ones I talked about: doll self, vampire self, bug self. Some people want you to call them it. I'm never calling a person it. I would be more likely to call someone a bug than it.
Wait, why?
And that's saying something, because I would never call someone a bug.
You would never call someone a bug? I bet you could go Google that and find out where she called someone a fucking slug or some sort of bug version thing.
So I think
Artemis, thanks for the 100 biddies. Hey Jake, bits because it's almost our 1 year anniversary with my boyfriend. Hell yeah. We met through D&D campaign started by Christmas Days. Hell yeah. Hey, look at that matchmaker out here. I hope you guys are happy. Appreciate the biddies.
I think what Addison doesn't get is that it's very frustrating for people to see this, know that it's insane, but have this immense social pressure to accept it, or else they're outcast from society, they're going to lose their job, they're going to be criticized, have extreme backlash towards them, be called a bigot, and...
Okay, so there, I guess cancel culture, big bad, okay? Sure, yeah, okay. But the real problem here, though, is not transphobes losing their jobs. Okay, it's trans people dealing with systemic injustices and dehumanization. So I think I'm going to pick the bigger fight and go with team good people, not because it's a badge of honor, but because it's just the right thing to do, dude. It's just the right thing to do. Now, if you have problems with repeating back someone's neopronouns, just try real hard not to use them in conversation. Don't intentionally use the wrong ones. But I can tell you for sure, like, it might be a little weird to your mouth. It might feel a little awkward for you to start using they, them in your normal lexicon. It might be a little weird for you to use it, its. It might be a little weird for you to use, like, zer, but let's be honest, I don't know a lot of people that are like having, like, outside of the big three, he, him, she, her, they, them, outside of the big three, not many people. again, I think most of this community knows about one person who goes by It's, and it's a good person. I like it a lot. And other than that, I don't really know anybody that requires me to remember things. Like, they pretend that, like, oh, the leftists have rosters of friends, and they have like a spreadsheet to keep their pronouns in order, and if you get the pronoun wrong, they just scream at you. And it's like, mostly he, she, they, and then sometimes there's somebody else, but not really often. That's it. Transdeer. True.
Speaking for myself and a lot of other transsexuals, it's quite offensive to conflate the desire to be called a bug with the
Does Altered Reading go by It's now? I didn't know that.
desire to just be called she if I transition. Like,
How do you explain the difference between sex and gender?
I consider sex to be our biological makeup. Our chromosomes or hormones, our genitals is a biological makeup. But our gender is more of an internal sense.
it's an internal sense of self, and it is to an extent a social role, but that is not to say that it's without being biologically driven. It's still your biology. Men are fueled to behave in certain ways by their hormones,
She's
by
so
their chromosomal
stupid, dude.
makeup, by their brains, and the same can be said for women, and the same can be said for trans women and trans men. Whenever people try to separate gender
Yeah, but it's not. That's not what's being said, though. And like you're it's like such semantics to be like, oh yeah, well, society occurs in our brains, and our brains are biological. It's like, I mean, yeah, I guess, but that's not what we mean. We don't mean that, like, when you say something is biological, there's an essentialism to it. There's a like, oh, this is the gene that turned on this quirk of personality, when it's so much more complicated than that. And that's why we delineate between the two. Yes, brains are biologically, they exist and were created by biology, sure. But I mean, like, I don't think your favorite TV show is biologically driven, nor is your favorite pair of shoes, nor is your favorite way to dress, nor is your favorite name for yourself, nor is, like, there's not a lot of things. Like, some of that, sure, because you are a biological entity, but, like, understand the conversation. Don't try to obfuscate it, dum-dum. No segue? Let's see. Okay, yeah, sure. A little bonus. A little bonus for you guys. That's just 5 friends and their new friend. That's it. That's all that is. Diva Shilster with 100 biddies. Wait, but if it is biology, Blaire still has... Did she just add herself as not being a girl? She is, but she's real... Yeah, I mean, like, really, like, under Blaire White's... Like what she's saying here, it delegitimizes herself because she knows where she makes her money, man. That's just kind of how it works. She constantly does this in the debate. Someone brought it up earlier, the debate with John Doyle or whatever. Boy, did she just eat a lot of fucking bullets for no reason. Like, she just straight up was like, I don't know. It was like the movie Roots. You remember the movie Roots? But if there was never that whipping scene, if it was just a guy being like, your name's Toby, and he's like, yes sir, my name is Toby, that's true, please like me. Like, that's really the vibes I get. Is just like, oh yeah, all the people that are actively harming me, please like me. Like, stop it. What the fuck, dude? The only girl in the Discord chat, yeah. My name is Toby, pick me. Yikes.
from biology, it's always a red flag that the person is A, an idiot, and 2, being entirely unscientific. Maybe I'm being too harsh calling Addison an idiot here, but what I will say is what Addison is saying is idiotic. How about that?
So think of it like this. Sex is what's between the legs, and gender is what's between the ears, right? It's how we see ourselves on the inside.
So it's in your brain, which is a biological structure.
Jesus Christ. I can't believe. She literally did the thing. She literally did. Okay.
How is it not biological? With this train of thinking, Addison is reducing gender to acting.
What do you mean? Oh.
To being performative. And it's not.
I know, it's very confusing, right? Everyone's like, what is going on?
So the thing about it is that when no one understands you, sometimes the onus is on you to make more sense or rethink your positions. It doesn't mean you're smarter than everyone. It maybe means you're dumber. But again, these people tend to be huge narcissists, and they see themselves as being teachers, So you really can't break.
Where's the gender source? There's Broca's area in the brain for speech and stuff and for recognition. There's and then the gender area is in your frontal lobe. Okay, that's where it is.
Through to them.
And so how does someone ask? How does somebody clarify that? Ethan, what's the best way?
No, this is not an old video. She still has her tree up. Yeah. To be fair, it's January 31st. You know, we can't all be on top of shit.
What's the most comfortable way?
I think for me, to
tree's
create
down,
a safe space for people to share their pronouns, I will say, "Hi, my name is Ethan. I use he or they
This
pronouns.
came out 4 hours ago, 3 hours ago.
What about you?"
I mean, that's cool if you want to do that, and you're free to do that. But the expectation for all people to adopt this new greeting of, "Hi, I'm Blaire. How are you? What are your pronouns?" It's just not reasonable. It's never going to happen. And for 99.9% of people, if you ask them what their pronouns are, they're either going to be highly confused or offended. I personally would be offended. If you came up to me and you asked me if I go by he or she or what my pronouns are, I'm going to see that as some sort of attack and or shade. I did
Attack and or shade. I think maybe you should get over yourself. I don't. It wasn't someone coming up to you and going like, "What are your pronouns?" It was someone going like, "Hi, I think was it Ethan? I can't remember. Hi, I'm Jake. My pronouns are he, him." And that's it. That's the meeting. That's the greeting. And then the idea is that maybe you just reciprocate with that. That's okay. I don't introduce myself like that because I'm a cis boy. But if anyone asks, I have no fucking problem with it ever, dude. It's not hard. Blaire, your viewers think you're a man and will always will. What are you doing? The right will never love you. Give up. I mean, does she get misgendered in her comments? I would hate that. That would suck. Please have a one-on-one debate with Matt.
not transition for people to ask me what I want to be.
Did Blaire just admit she'd be mad if she were misgendered? Jeez. Well,
I transitioned to blend in with society. That's the entire point. So while these people are
Your
so focused on...
Your entire point was to transition to blend in with society, air quotes. Like, it doesn't mean it has to be someone else's. It's so weird how if you do something for one reason, someone else has to be like follow in your footsteps for that same reasoning. It doesn't make any sense.
On what does or doesn't offend them, it never occurs to them what may or may not offend someone else. It's always, always, always about them, and that's the biggest problem with their ideology. Is it's very, very selfish.
What do you mean? What are you talking about? I don't know what is the selfish aspect of being like, hey, what would you like to be called in our friendship? I don't want to make you uncomfortable, and I want to facilitate, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to, I guess it's about validating your friends, really. That's all it is, and validating other people in the community. That's all it is, just validation. Asshat Wearer, thanks for the 3 months, dude. Appreciate it.
On a very basic
affirmation.
level. And it's why so
looking for.
often, no matter how much backlash I get, I highlight the differences in the non-binary agenda and the trans agenda, if there is an agenda for either of those things. The goals of the non-binary movement is to be asking people what their pronouns are. The goals of the transsexual movement is to never be asked and to just blend in society.
You think the thesis statement of the non-binary community is to, quote, ask people their pronouns? Tasha, thanks for the 50 biddies. Isn't her entire argument a straight-face interpretation on that tweet ContraPoint made where she doesn't like the pronoun circle? Natalie at least knew it wasn't about her, unlike Blaire. Like, I guess. I don't remember the tweet, but yeah, maybe. Like, what the fuck? I've never heard a trans person say that their goal in being trans is to blend in with society. Now, I do understand a portion of that sentiment seems to be more like I want people to view me as a woman, right? That makes sense. For a binary trans woman, of course. Yeah, I want people to see me as a woman. That's fine. That doesn't mean blending in with society, and it doesn't mean that another trans person must also follow that, or they're not like a real trans person. You know what I mean? Like, there's people that, like, Blaire cares about passing quite a bit, right? Which is fine. Passing, the concept of it is kind of icky to me. Although I do understand that certain people, like, you want to look a certain way and you're kind of... I think it's a much more personal notion than it is anything else. Like, if you want to, air quotes, pass, okay, that's your definition of passing, and that's for you. It's a for you thing. But you're not putting it on other people, right? Because other people aren't, like, obligated to fall into your own, like, designs, right? Yeah, it's gatekeeping, says Mary Mapleman. I agree. Hate trans gatekeeping and society's notions of passing. I agree. The only reason I stopped living as a woman and quit HRT was because my voice can never pass and I got tired of the violence. Yeah, I don't know. But, like, I just don't... It's just wild to me that they're unless it's self-imposed, the pressure to feel like you have to be or look a certain way is wild to me. Like, obviously, there's some safety concerns and stuff depending on what communities you're around and shit like that, so that can be rough. But, like, outside of the pragmatic, like, fucking yikes. Just the concept is grody.
Those are two completely antithetical goals, and they're not reconcilable at all. But again, because these people tend to be narcissists, they're hyper-focused on what only offends them, never anyone else. Let's just skip ahead to when the opposing side, Matt Walsh, comes in, because that's the good stuff. That's what you're here for.
So you can feel however you want. I mean, I could sit here and say that I feel like a tomato plant, but that doesn't mean that I'm actually in those things. So your self-perception, you can have whatever self-perception
He just
you
did a
want,
helicopter joke,
but you
bro.
can't expect me to take part in that self-perception or to take part in this kind of charade, this theatrical production.
So Matt is right in the sense that the
Matt is
expectation
right?
for your self-perception to be paralleled and mirrored by other people in the way they perceive you is just unreasonable. You can't expect that ever in life, whether it's maybe you think you're an amazing baseball player, but someone else thinks you absolutely suck. Maybe you think you're highly attractive, but this person you want to date does not think you're attractive. So it can be true of more shallow things like that, or it can be more true of these deeper senses of self that you have, like about your gender. Just because you see yourself as a certain gender does not mean everyone else is going to. And that's just the reality of life. It seems like a very unhealthy mentality to go around expecting that.
Okay.
It seems like a very self-defeating
let her
mentality
finish her
to go
sentence.
around expecting that. I think it's
Okay. Okay. So the argument here is, all right, society, okay, a fact of society is that some people will misgender you. So therefore, never ask for anyone to respect you ever, because disrespect is around the corner. Wow, what a terrible fucking outlook on life. Like, what? This is, I mean, it's the same thing as like, I don't know. Like, Blaire, why did you even eat today? Someday you're gonna die. Like, why maintain your health or work out or anything like that if you're just gonna be a corpse shortly in the grand scheme of things? Like, what the fuck, man? Yes, some people will misgender you. That is a fact of life. True. That does not mean that you need to, for some reason, abandon any signs of your own dignity or demand respect from people that want to interact with you or any of that. Like you deserve respect, and you deserve, like, Blaire White deserves respect as far as, like, her identity. I would never misgender Blaire. I mean, I wouldn't, like, there's no part of me that looks at Blaire White and thinks, faking it. You know what I mean? I believe that she is a genuinely trans individual, and like, I even believe that she might even think she's right about a lot of stuff. She probably does. But in this, like, cynical way where, like, you look at her and you see the content she puts out, and it's like, God damn it, dude. I just feel like if she had a little bit more... If she had people in her life that stopped this line of thinking where it's just, you can't keep people from being an asshole to you. Like, if she demanded, like, some further level of respect from people, right? Like, I don't know who's around her. This sounds like I don't know, a parenting thing or something. I guess maybe we're getting into the weeds trying to diagnose whatever the fucking hang up is here, but nonetheless, I don't know. I think there are some people that bail out of this kind of conversation and take the wrong side on this topic because they're not comfortable in advocating for themselves. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I've ever seen Blaire White advocate for herself, like, insofar as her identity is concerned. Is that wild to me? Or is that wild to you guys? Like, I don't... Have you guys ever seen that? Because she's always just, like, shitting on people that are advocating for her identity. And I think it makes her uncomfortable to... I don't know. I think also advocating for your own identity in the case when you're a trans person also opens you up to more abuse, because the same people she makes money from would turn on her immediately, and she would go through the shit if she, you know, went the other way with her ideas here. And I think she knows that to some extent. It's kind of sad, man. Diva Shielster, no, even when she was directly attacked, she told she needed to stop being trans, grow a mustache. She just kind of went, oh, okay, I'm back down to... I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think she is capable of self-advocacy, and that's part of the problem. Yeah, I don't know. And then, of course, Speedy Yoshi, she just assumes everyone is fine with her identity, so why defend it at all, even when others actually talk shit to her face? I think also part of it is she's done a lot to do what she, again, believes is traditional passing. She talked about this a lot. She thinks that you need to be, if you're a trans woman, you need to be hyper feminine like she is, and if you're not, you're less legitimate than she is. And I think part of that, and I'm assuming this goes a lot into, like, she does a lot of, like, thirst trappy workout stuff and posts it to her her transphobic lady dick chasers, whatever's going on there. You know what I mean? Like, people that are transphobic, but they find Blaire White sexually attractive, right? She did against Ben Shapiro years ago. Maybe she did. I don't know. I don't remember that. I'd have to watch it again. But Shapiro straight up said he doesn't respect her or her pronouns, and she shrimps for him like his goons, like to her face. Oh, shit. I don't recall that. But anyway, let's keep moving on.
It's a much healthier mindset to encourage people to be happy with themselves and to not expect or need validation from anyone else. I don't receive validation from anyone else other than the few people that are very close to me and that I love.
What did I fucking say?
And from me. I get my own validation from my own sense of self and from me.
I mean, there's a bit of that that's healthy, but I mean, like, she just outright said, I don't get validation from anybody else except for, like, a few people. Like, holy shit, dude, that sucks. She doesn't get validation from any of her fans at all. They never validate her. God, dude, that is, wow, that is a bleak outlook on your own life.
You don't get your own pronouns, just like you don't get your own prepositions or your own adjectives. You know, it's like if I were to tell you, my adjectives are handsome and brilliant, and whenever you're talking about me, you have to describe me as handsome and brilliant.
By the way, on this mic where he doesn't tune the bass down, he sounds a little more like, may I say, shrill?
Because that's how I identify. Makes no sense. You don't get your own pronouns. That's grammar. That's language.
That's a terrible fucking argument.
Okay, so the thing about pronouns is they are based on a subconscious snap, registry, and judgment of secondary sex characteristics that most people don't even consciously think of. Sure. It is simply, you see someone and your brain tells you, this is a man, this is a woman, and you just say he or she. You don't think about it. So the idea that it's some long thought out process, like what am I gonna call this person? Am I gonna be mean to them or am I not gonna be mean to them? That is not how 99.9% of human interactions work. That's why in most situations, if you are misgendered, regardless if you're trans or not, it's not productive to sit there and really take it to heart and take it as, oh, this person's trying to offend me, because most of the time that's really not the case.
Why framing it like this implies that trans people getting accidentally misgendered is like a big point of contention for most trans people. I don't see most trans people yelling and screaming at people when they are accidentally misgendered. Usually it's a calm correction, and usually the other person's pretty receptive, in my experience. Like, it's always the people that do it on purpose that are the ones that get the shit. Always.
Pronouns almost always are a subconscious verbal expression of someone else's secondary sex characteristics. That's it. I'd be willing to bet that because Addison does have a beard and chooses to present in the way that Addison does, most people when they come into contact are probably going to say he subconsciously. I wouldn't doubt that just because of...
To Addison, specifically Addison, who has a beard but otherwise looks pretty, I would actually ask. I would. Now I know that most like non-binary people don't necessarily go with like such a that is like incredibly openly very masculine, very feminine at the same time. It's almost more than androgynous, right? Because you can tell that both masculinity and femininity are happening, whereas androgynous to me, although the word might still apply, androgynous to me is always like more subtle, if that makes sense. But not every non-binary person is androgynous, so like I don't just ask androgynous people. Addison specifically though is like clearly doing a thing, right? Like clearly there is like an effort here going into the look. So I would be like, oh, okay, what are they? Like what are the pronouns? Like what you got going on? And Addison would be like, they, them, and I'd be like, all right, and then we would never talk again. Most likely. Although I am pretty cool, I think maybe Addison and I would hang out. I think that'd be cool. I would hang out. Real Balbamet energy? I don't know what that is. I don't want to be androgynous. I want to be masculine but pretty. See, there you go. See, that's the thing. Do that.
Objectively, Addison's appearance is quite jarring to some people, most people, but I'm sure there are assholes and people who harass Addison and say things on the street. So to be specific, Matt is half right and half wrong here. You absolutely can choose a different set of pronouns, but whether or not you're willing to actually work to visually represent those pronouns.
Work to visually represent those pronouns. What does they, them look like? What does she, her look like? Are you telling me? Okay, can you, okay, if I type in, let me see if I can get, no, these are all like good looking. Hold on. I'm gonna find you one. I'm scared to show this Google because it might end up being a little more sexual than I want it to be for this Google. Nonetheless, ooh, I have it. I know what I was gonna say. Chucky, thanks for the prime for 2 months, dude. Okay, so this person right here. What's the pronouns? This is a cis woman. However, there is like masculinity involved. There's a fucking bullet necklace, bruh. You know what I mean? This is a cis woman, to my knowledge, what I'm reading here. But does it matter? I don't know, man. This is a good one. I don't know, man. There's stuff. There's just like people that are I wouldn't even call this androgynous necessarily, but there's like a spectrum of what femininity can be, and that person probably, at least according to what I got here, that person probably is very happily, I'm a woman, and you know people like this. You also know dudes that are a little effeminate, that are just like, maybe they're gay, maybe they're straight, whatever, it doesn't matter. Maybe they just got a little femme going on, but they're definitely cis men. Like, we run the gamut, bro. Like, the idea that like you can call that biker like confidently that is a woman, right? You just like that, yep, that's a woman. And would Blaire White say that she hasn't put in the effort to have earned her pronouns of she and her, even though she's cis? You know what I mean? Because she's not hyper feminine like Blaire. So like, what do we do in that situation? That's why trans med and like sort of this essentialism in regards to how one performs their gender, like, it's just so weird, man. It's just not useful.
It's going to be the deciding factor on if you actually get called them, especially if we're talking in the context of strangers, people on the street, etc. And just because you choose these pronouns, especially if they are alternative pronouns like ze, zer, they, them, whatever, you cannot expect people to just blindly fall in line. That's just not how people speak. It's not what people are familiar with. And you can fight to make people more familiar with it, but I'd be willing to bet that even people who are familiar with it are not going to suddenly start talking like that. Like, I just don't see it happening. It's kind of like Fetch in Mean Girls. Like, they're trying so hard to make it a thing. It's just not a thing. It's not.
So you think
Asking pronouns is the thing, guys. It is. I mean, she's just wrong. People ask them all the time.
it's a delusion? Someone is self-delusional.
Yeah, I think it's delusion. It could be a mental illness. It could be it's a lot of different things. With children, you know,
It can be for some people. I think there are definitely some people out there who are terrified to acknowledge their biological sex. And there are definitely people who
Do you think being okay? Hold on, wait. Do you think being terrified of acknowledging your biological sex, okay, which probably isn't a thing, but like acknowledging it, like terrified of it? Do you think that might be a side effect of dysphoria or something? Like what? You know what? Something that I hadn't ever considered, but something that I read yesterday, and I'm sure many of you in here, especially trans folks in here, will be like, yes. I saw something yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Someone posted, like, I think cis people, I am cis, by the way, if you're not aware. I say if you're not aware, I'm such a fucking just bro slob. I figured it was obvious. Anyway. Oh, that guy clearly is just a cishet. Khakis and football. Anyway, the person tweeted, I think cis people understand, and I'm paraphrasing. I think cis people understand, like, intellectually the idea of like having an incongruence between their sex and their gender, and like how that could be a little upsetting. But what cis people probably don't, and I don't think even think about, is the sheer body horror experience of literally being in the wrong flesh. And that was like a guttural, like very visceral thing I hadn't really understood until, and not that I understand it now necessarily, but at least I am aware of it. Like the body horror of being in the wrong flesh. Like that makes it sound, I think frankly, if y'all talked about that a little bit more, I think maybe the normies might get it a little bit, because holy shit, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. Spent many an hour despairingly staring into the mirror mid-shower before even knowing I was trans. Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't realize that. And of course it is, right? As soon as it was said, I was like, oh, fuck, obviously. Yeah. Dysphoria for sure, some Kafka-esque shit, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. Damn. Literal breakdowns. Body horror always seems like a much closer way to describe it. Yeah, and I hadn't actually considered that. And frankly, I don't think it's been explained by anyone until that moment in my conversations with trans people about like how it feels and shit. No one's ever said it like that. It's always been like, I'm in the wrong body, I hate how I look, stuff like that. And I can empathize with that kind of shit. But the body horror, that is totally foreign to me. Right? Like that is despairing. That does sound fucking awful. Sounds even worse. Right? Yeah. Just, it's fucked up because it requires us to describe that an actual horror to people who want us dead. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Have a good night, Ace. Not sure everyone feels that way, though. Trans experience is different for... Of course, yeah, obviously. Usually this isn't the case of, like, binary trans people. Like, this is from a binary trans person that was describing it. I believe they were a trans woman and just sort of... actually, no, this was a trans man, because later on I looked down and there was comics of... they drew semi-body horror comics about, like, pulling off their breasts so that they could have a more masculine chest. It was actually interesting. I learned a lot just from that thread. I read it. I didn't retweet it or anything because... or did I retweet the first one? I didn't retweet the rest of the stuff. I didn't want... I worry about you guys sometimes. I'm fine talking about it here because we can sort of talk it through and you guys can shut this off and shit like that. But sometimes on Twitter you just sort of get in click hold and you sort of just read and scrub. And I don't know. Sometimes I don't retweet that stuff because I don't want any of the trans followers to be like, well, fuck, I got to think about that right now. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Body horror comes and goes personally. Sometimes it's fine. Sometimes, yikes. Yeah. Yeah, well, I can't imagine it's just constant all the time, but I do imagine that it is enough to where, like, the way you guys described the feeling to me has always been a little, like, there was always an aspect of it I couldn't quite understand, and I think this was it. Like, the I don't want to use anguish. What's the word I'm looking for? I guess the overwhelming anxiety of wrongness, which is more of a phrase, but yeah. Anyway, that's an interesting question, Aussie. Personally, I don't understand the concept of feeling like a man or a woman. The statement of I didn't feel like X is odd to me. What does it feel like to be a man? I don't know what it feels like to be a man. I know what it feels like to be me who is a man. Does that make sense? A man has lots of things. I know what my version of life is. And I know what being a man is to me, in the way in that I'm comfortable with the cultural trappings of masculinity, in the ways that I explore them, and I'm also comfortable in not exploring some aspects of masculinity. So, like for instance, I cook a lot, and that is considered, if it's not on a grill, sometimes a feminine trait. But I guess you haven't had my fucking braised short ribs, so, and nor will you, if you be like that.
Who even genuinely believe that they are able to change their biological sex through
The man,
transitioning,
that's
which
right.
is not possible. But I would be curious if Matt knew that there actually are a lot of transsexuals. In fact, I've in real life never met a transsexual who doesn't know this, that you can't change your biological sex, you can only change your
interesting,
secondary sex
Valentine.
characteristics, and that someone like me will absolutely always be biologically male. I was born that way, I will die that way, and the fact that I was born that way is the reason why I chose to transition. Because for whatever reason, whether it's gender dysphoria, whether it's some sort of wiring in my brain that didn't go right in the womb, I wasn't comfortable with it. I do not believe I'm a biological woman by any means, any way, shape, or form, and I don't need to believe that to have validation for myself.
Do any trans people ever do the opposite of what she's saying here? Where you're just like, yep, I'm a biological woman. Like, I was born with a vagina. It was just a trick the whole time. Like, oh, lentil stew sounds fucking delicious. I don't be like that. Can I try your braised short ribs? Yeah, probably. You don't have any lentils? You can make some. They're cheap.
I don't think there's anything delusional about transsexuals who have this train of thought. In fact, I think it's actually very self-aware.
When a 4-year-old boy comes to you and says, oh, I'm a girl, here's a good follow-up question. What is a girl? Ask him what he means by that. What do you mean by girl? And when you ask him that, here's what he'll tell you. He will tell you what he really means is that he wants to do some of the things that girls do. Like
So let them. Fuck it.
play with the dollhouse. Or you know, he likes the color pink. That's fine, play with the dollhouse. But you're still a boy.
This is
Maybe.
absolutely correct. And while gender non-conforming
That's not absolutely correct. What do you mean that's absolutely correct? That's not absolutely correct. 4-year-olds can and do often self-identify their own gender, and for their entire life will have been correct from the age of 4 whenever they end up doing it. What do you mean? Has Blaire White never actually talked about her experiences in being trans? When did she fucking decide that she was trans? Like, when did it, like, I mean, decide, I guess, like, intellectually make the understanding that she was trans, I suppose, rather than decide. But you know what I'm saying? Like, when did she like come to terms with the reality that she was trans? Was it not until she was like 25? Because I don't think that's the case. Does Blaire White have any friends? None that validate her, apparently.
behaviors or interests can be present in children at a very, very young age. It certainly was for me. This can sometimes
Literally not fine. Republicans will maul if their little boys play with dolls. Here's a good story. I've told this before, but it's a good story nonetheless. My dad and I, growing up, we didn't have a good relationship. But when I was a young boy, I was, you wanna have a relationship with your dad. You want to hang out with your dad, hopefully. You want your dad to be... You know what's interesting? When I was growing up, and people were like, they did those, like, who's your hero thing. People would say that their dads were their hero. And I was always, like, confused. I was like, why? What's your dad do? What do you mean your dad's your hero? How? How could that possibly be the case? Turns out other people have better dads. And probably also were full of shit. But... I remember specifically, I was like 5, maybe 4. Like, I really wasn't old at all because this is how I know, it was a classic Nintendo. And the Super Nintendo wasn't out yet. It was a classic Nintendo. Like, when did the Super Nintendo come out? Actually, it might have been out. Super Nintendo. I'm not that old. When did it come out? 1990? No, it was out. It was out. We just didn't have one. Wait, 1991? Oh, the American release was in 1991. Maybe I was 3 or 4. Anyway, so it was new nonetheless because I remember going over to our friend's house and she had a Super Nintendo and we played Mario Paint, but that was later. I was older. Anyway, had a regular Nintendo and there was like a tennis game, and I don't remember what it was called. Doesn't matter. There was a tennis game and you could like pick your characters and then you'd play tennis against whoever was on the other side. My dad had the other controller, and it was just like the A button, B button, start, select, and the arrow keys, and then that was it, right? And we were just playing tennis. And I was probably dog shit, right? And my mom was sitting there. I remember sitting on the floor playing this game. This is a flashbulb moment for me. So weird. And I picked a girl character. I don't know why. I'm a kid. I just probably picked it because it looked visually interesting to me. It definitely was not Wii Sports Tennis. So I picked the girl character, and my dad got mad at me. I remember him being mad at me and says, "Why would you pick a girl character?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "You're not a girl. You're a boy." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess." And I remember my mom being like, "What the fuck? Let him play whatever he wants." And she's not like a political person. I don't think she had like any ideology to it. She just was like, "That's stupid. Why? Who gives a shit?" But I remember that. That was actually like a fucking thing that happened in my life. And that's one of my earliest memories of my father. Weird that didn't work out as a relationship. Sky Come Up Falling with the 50 Biddies. My brother had a baby doll, and he played Barbie v Transformers with me. We never thought about the gender implications. We were just kids playing. My brother is now a straight cis man, newlywed to a beautiful woman. Girl toys didn't make him a girl. I played with girl toys too at my friend again. My parents' friends. They had kids. The one girl had a big crush on me. Not a fan. Still not a fan. And I played with her Barbies, and that was it. We just played Barbies. I do remember playing with the Barbies and being aroused by the boobies and not understanding why I was aroused by the boobies when I was a kid. I distinctly remember that and like being embarrassed and trying to like make sure no one saw that I was aroused. It was really interesting. Like looking back on that, I absolutely remember that. I'm a straight through and through, boys. All right? I was looking at titties when I was a kid, and I was like, yeah, I like them titties. What about your dad's very enlightened POV on what sports you were allowed to play? My dad did. I made the basketball team, was really excited, and my dad did call basketball an N-word sport. So, in case you were wondering if he was maybe he had some redeeming qualities. I'm sure he had redeeming qualities, but all of them have been blasted by my terrible, terrible memories of him. Hey, good night, Maps and Mimics. Appreciate it. It's developmentally good for all children to play with dolls. I mean, I'm sure it's good for children to play with all sorts of different things. You know, just like trying to learn about stuff. I was aroused by my Barbies too. Bye, girl here. I drew nipples on them. Hey, I didn't draw the nipples. I didn't have Barbies. But yeah. Glad someone relates. I mean, I straight up was. I was turned on by Barbies, dude. I wasn't turned on by the Ken dolls or the G.I. Joes, though. And not like anyone told me not to be or to be. I felt like I felt, you know? Jake's dad sounds short. He's about my height. He was 5'10".
Cases be an indicator that later in life, that child is going to make the decision to transition, but more than likely, the more likely options, there are a few more likely options, that they're gay, that they're lesbian. Most gay people I know, most gay men I know, have these same stories that seem parallel to mine of liking Barbies, liking the color pink when they were very young, wanting to play with the girls. This is a very common thing. Same with, Tom girls I know that like to play with boys, liked more boy things. If your child expresses these non-conforming behaviors, there is a much higher chance, just statistically, that they're going to be gay or lesbian or just a feminine boy or just a masculine girl than trans. And I think there's a real danger in jumping straight to, oh, my child is trans, we're going to change their name, we're going to, have them dress as a different gender, when in reality, that's the least likely reason why they're expressing the things they're expressing. I don't think people understand that actual gender dysphoria that is so intense that it actually drives someone to transition is such a separate issue from just, I like the color pink and I like girly things.
Well, yeah, no one... The only person... Wait, what? Wait, why are you yelling at the lefties, the big wokies, for that? That was Matt Walsh saying that, not any of the lefties. Wait, what the fuck? You also... looks like you already yelled it in my chat. You don't need to experience dysphoria to be trans, of course. But nonetheless, lots do. Matt Walsh was the only one that distilled femininity down to liking pink and wearing dresses. That was it. No one else did. None of the wokies did that. You better yell at Matt.
Both are usually present in these incidents. Both were present for me, but just to paint a picture, at the height of my gender dysphoria, when I was in my late teens, when it was the absolute worst, I couldn't leave the house, I couldn't go to the grocery store, I couldn't be a functioning member of society to really any extent. It was that debilitating. And even then, the solution is going to be different for everyone. I know people that have experienced gender dysphoria throughout their life and are so glad they never transitioned because it was never quite that bad, or it went away and it comes back, or sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. It's different for everyone. I am a...
That sounds like a non-binary individual, in my opinion. I don't know if that's true or not, but the fact that it has ebbs and flows sounds like maybe somebody is a little fluid. You know what I mean? Maybe there's a fluidity to it. Not everybody has to be a rock solid on one side or the other of the fence. Brooke says, my dad wanted me to be a boy. I'm a cis girl, so I often find myself trying to fit roles that didn't fit me. I mean, although you're cis, I don't think that's not relevant. I think all of our experiences with gender and however it shook out at the end is relevant to the discussion. God damn it, Meaty. Super upsetting to me to have my 8-year-old son come home from school talking about boy toys. Wait, what? Oh, because there's like boy toys and girl toys. I see what you're saying.
Success story in terms of transitioning, and
Sister
even
Val,
I
hey,
could
thank
never
you.
have figured
Finally, somebody said it. Finally, our day in the sun, fellow sisses. Man, now I can actually like rise up out of the ashes, right? And me and my cis brothers and sisters only, okay? We can enjoy our time.
that out at 4, 5, 6. And it's just disturbing that liking the color pink or liking to play with Barbies as a boy or being tough as a young girl is somehow the bar of entry.
It's not.
For being trans now.
Nope, that isn't the bar of entry. Matt's the only one that said that. Nobody else said that.
It's just going to cause a huge wave of backlash in the future, but we'll get to that, I guess.
That's a question I would like to throw out to other members of the panel, actually, because just like the 4-year-old can't answer what is a girl, well, this is one of the problems with this left-wing gender ideology, is that no one who espouses it can even tell you what these words mean. It's like, what is a woman?
Well,
can you tell me what a woman is?
No, I can't.
If you can't define what a woman is...
Oh, why did she cut it there, dog? I know why she cut it there. We actually watched the clip on this channel. I'm sure the other video is available if you're watching this on YouTube. That person goes straight into the reason that no, I actually can't. They literally go right into it. She just cut it before any explanation could be had. I don't think she's going to show the answer. Matt Walsh and Steve Shives, I ship them. Oh, fuck. Imagine if Matt Walsh and Steve Shives, who, by the way, Steve is a way better person than Matt. Don't do that to Steve. But even though we have some disagreements. But they do have, in a vacuum, those beards together, good God.
Why are you trying so hard to redefine it?
Because it's not for me to say. Womanhood looks different for everybody.
What do you define a woman as?
An adult human.
Literally got rid of all the things that were said and just skipped to the end. Blaire, is liking pink and playing with dolls linked with being a girl? Addison, being a woman is different to everyone. Blaire, confused Pikachu face.
And female.
And what does a female mean?
Well,
how
that's
do you define a
someone with female reproductive organs.
Okay.
Someone who's, here's the thing, when you're female, it goes right down to your bones, your DNA. So that's why if someone dies, we could dig up their bones 100 years from now. We have no idea what they believed in their head, but we can tell what sex they were because it's down in, it's ingrained in every fiber of their being.
Interesting.
This is correct.
You could tell what sex they are, sure. Yeah. But that's not the question. That's not the topic of discussion, is it? Does that matter? What? Why are we talking about other stuff? It's like trying to I don't know. It's like Matt Walsh saying like, you can tell what make and model of a car is when you find it in a dumpster or a junkyard rather. But you can't tell anything about the person that was driving it, can you, Matt? Because there's some stuff that isn't physical, is it? Right? Like that's sort of like that's not a part of the car. It's a part of the car's experience, right? Like, so weird. Bone structure is just really complicated. I mean, yeah, obviously. Like, we don't have to get in the weeds about determining who's a lady or not. I think Matt Walsh watched a season of Bones and just thought, well, I guess if they have childbearing hips, they're always a lady. I'm pretty sure in the show Bones, there are several instances where the bones, they think the sex is one thing and it turns out to be a different thing, by the way.
100 years, if they dug up my body for whatever reason.
Archaeological digs have found trans people, though. That's actually true, yeah.
And ran tests or whatever the hell they do, they would absolutely see that I was a biological male.
Maybe. Conservatives don't understand it's impossible to define something like woman. Might as well ask, what is love? What is the color green? True.
My life. And this piece of information is entirely irrelevant to me or the quality of life that I'm living. And it's so cringe that this discourse has devolved into what is a woman? What is a woman?
Gay McKenzie says the bones argument sucks so bad for a lot of reasons. I agree. The bones! But as a literal bioarchaeologist, sexing people based on bones is super shaky and not always accurate. Hey, chat. Who wants to get sexed based on bones?
Woman, when every person in that room knows exactly what a woman is. It's just one side pretending not to. The same way we observe what is a female, what is a male in every other species of animals on the planet is the same way we observe it with each other.
No.
So I'm trying to understand. Your definition is that a woman is someone who is female, you said, right?
Correct. Is a biological female.
It's not his definition.
It is.
The definition. It's just like it's not your truth, it's the truth. And you can have a slant on the truth based on your own bias.
550 NM, that's green. Actually, I bought the green NFT, so you have to send me royalties now. Please subscribe.
But there's
That's
the
your
truth
royalty.
and there's the definition.
So what happens if we have maybe someone who is female, identifies as a woman, right? Cisgender woman, right? As you just explained, maybe doesn't have the ability to reproduce. Maybe doesn't have those organs that you're talking about that are reproductive organs.
She's still a woman. This is the lamest talking point. And I remember making this when I was like 20. Like I remember at the very start of my transition, I was never, ever as fully woke as so many of these activists, right? But
I've never, ever is fully woke. I love that she always appeals to her, hey, look, I'm one of the good ones, okay? Please don't be mean to me.
a little bit of I did dip into the annoying talking points. I would say things like, well,
Blaire, thank you, Speedy Yoshi. Blaire's disagreeing with nothing, right? Because that is Addison's point. Yeah.
I know a woman who doesn't have a uterus, and it's cool, she's still a woman. I don't know what I thought I was doing making that point, but it's just embarrassing. It's just a man who gets his junk blown off in war is still a man. Since these people can't say it, let's just this is how easy it is.
Okay.
A woman is an adult biological female. A trans woman is the adult biological male who presents as a woman visually. This is not
Presents as a woman visually is not true. Nope. That isn't it.
not a difficult concept. And this is a concept that
Visually,
we
again,
had figured
always
out
visually.
quite a while ago before these types of people came in and tried to switch everything up. People understood. You know what I mean? There's a reason why the word trans is in front of woman, because it indicates it is something different. Would I ever be technical and annoying in a real life scenario and call myself a trans woman and just have to be so technically correct that I would never say the word woman? No, in my real life, my family, my friends call me a woman because that's the way they see me. You know what I mean? But the
It's not because of the way they see you, though, necessarily, right? I'm sure part of that is, but like, you weren't always just like hyper feminine, right? Is Blaire White going to sit here and tell me that at no point during her transition, right, when she still felt as though she had masculine traits and she was still probably in her own estimation a work in progress, right? She's not quite where she wants to be. Is she telling me that until she was happy with herself, no one called her a woman? Like, what the fuck? She's literally throwing herself under the bus constantly with this kind of shit. She's pulling the ladder up, you think? Oh, yeah, that's probably it. Yeah. Dude, she's incapable of advocating for even herself. It's fucking sad, dude. Like, even when she did try to advocate for herself, she had to hedge and be like, oh, I was never a full wokie. Like, what the fuck, dude? Just fucking stand up for yourself. Spineless.
reality is I'm a trans woman. I was not born a woman. I was not born a girl to age into being a woman. There are so many aspects of womanhood that I cannot relate to. Are there parallels? Yes. If I'm sitting with my female friends, is it like I'm just so removed from their experience walking through the world as a woman that I can't relate to them? Of course not. There's plenty I relate to, especially
Hating myself so much that I'll never admit that I'm a woman to own the libs. True!
for the fact that I did transition, and to a large extent, I've been able to integrate into society and be treated as such. So I would relate to a woman much more than I would relate to a man. When I'm hanging out with my friends who are men, there are certain things that I don't relate to, I don't understand, I don't have in common with them because I don't live my life like that. This in no way.
That happens to cis people. What the fuck? This isn't... Ugh. Dude, why is she... Why... Again, she's just boiling down, like, womanhood and gender in general to performative stuff. Like... This is a terrible pause screen. I'd be remiss if I didn't, like, you know, I mean, what am I doing if I'm not, right? If I don't tweet this, am I even, like, just shut it all down, you know? Like, we can't, right? That'd be stupid. That'd be silly. Just say you're a woman. You're a woman, Blaire. It's fine. We understand that there's a distinction between your biology and your gender. Like, there was discordance, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then you rectified it for yourself in the way that you saw fit. That's great, but that isn't prescriptive for every single other trans person, and you are harmful because you do so. That's the whole thing, man. Do we have to... there's only a couple minutes. I'll finish the video. I was gonna skip it, but let's just...
Makes me a
last
biological female.
minute's gonna be
I will
nothing.
never be that, and that is okay. I don't understand why this is like distressing information for other trans people, and also I don't understand why it's not distressing to me. Maybe it should be distressing to me, but it's not. We are not the same. Even if we can draw parallels.
Ooh, we're not the same. She's literally being a pick-me right now, out loud. I'm literally not the same as any other trans person. Holy shit.
Which we can, we are not the same. I will never understand menstruating, giving birth, being pregnant, being raised as a girl. None of that. I have any knowledge or... I won't say any knowledge. I understand it from like a technical standpoint, but I will never have any experience in that. And that's okay. I'm okay with that.
I have answered the question. You stood up here and said trans women are women.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean. What is a woman?
Womanhood is something that, just as Ethan explained, I cannot define because I am not
But
myself.
you used the word, so what did you mean when you said trans women are women if you don't know what it means?
You do not have to be a woman to define what a woman is. You do not have to be a cat to define what a cat is. I don't have to be this iPhone to define what my iPhone is.
That's not true. You went from a gender descriptor as far as like a societal standing within you know, I guess a societal structure, I suppose. A construct of societal expectation and the interactions of how people look and act and all those things, and then you went to like just a taxonomical thing. Like, to say I know how to identify a cat or I know how to identify an iPhone is not equal to identifying a woman or a man. It's equal to identifying a human or a bird or a car, right? It's like just the very top tier, right? Like these are not the same thing. Could you describe to me your cat's personality? Like it would take a lot longer to start to describe. Like if I ask you, okay, what kind of pet do you have? You have a cat. Okay, what's its name? Oh, it's Ellie. What's Ellie's personality? Holy shit, that just got a lot more complicated. Although I would make a joke and say eating kibbles, but there's so much more to that. Like what makes Ellie is different from what makes any other cat that cat. Like you love your cat the way you love your cat, and like and that's an even more simple thing because like cats are very simple creatures compared to the complexity of the human organism and the fucking apparatus of society in which we operate. Like so much more complicated. So no, you're just wrong. It's just not even close. The same question.
Either way, both sides of this debate are really just talking past each other, and it's very, very, like, I can't believe trans discourse has even devolved into this. The concept of what a transsexual is used to be considered in every scientific and, every literature ever an intense medical issue that afflicts a very small portion of the population. It can be treated in some cases by transitioning, and for some people this creates a net positive result for their life. I am one of these people. And the goal was to integrate, be part of society, and honestly, shut the fuck up. It was about shutting the fuck up. It was about, I'm going to transition and then just live my life. And I understand that I don't even do the whole...
Oh, yeah, single drop arguments. Yeah, Speedy Yoshi with 50 Bitties. A good example, I think, is to say, at what point do you stop being black? Is it when you're only 1/4, 1/8? When you don't look dark, how dark? It's the same as what point do you stop being a woman? Is it when you don't have periods, can't give birth, don't have a vagina? Exactly, yeah. These are reductive and they don't make any sense, right? Like really when it comes down to it, you don't have to have any set of markers. You don't have to tick any boxes to be any of these things. You know what I mean? Why does she keep saying transsexual? Well, Blaire White, instead of saying trans, will say transsexual. And we're done with that video. That's the end of the video. She's just going to do a scrub forward. It's just like an ad for her next video or whatever. Blaire White says the word transsexual on purpose to delineate herself from the dirty lefty wokies and to ingratiate herself with her right-wing audience who thirst after her only to hopefully continue to be placated by her and allowing them to feel as though that she is one of the good ones and that as they ogle her, they can feel no guilt because she's straightforward with them.